Jason Chaffetz from Utah.
Yeah.
He seemed to be so far ahead of this story. He comes out Wednesday before the FBI a week ago and says, I'm now voting for Trump.
Right.
The next day, apparently the agents tell Comey what's up, and then he puts it out on Friday.
Yeah.
So he's a day ahead of Comey.
He's a day ahead of Comey.
It seems, because you go, wait a minute, why is he all of a sudden? That's what I hear from supposition from people.
Yeah.
Also, the other day, he was the first one out with the news.
That's right.
He always seems to have it right there.
He always seems to have it, and so does Rudy Giuliani. And
but I'm told that Jason Chaffetz got no kind of heads up here. He did not know this letter was coming, and he has said so himself.
So it's coincidental that he announced for Trump the day before.
That part I don't know about, but I know that there were a lot of people who thought that he tweeted it out before the letter went to the Hill, and that's not true.
I heard from a former congressman from New Jersey. He told me to say, he calls you and says, how did Chaffetz know 2 days ahead?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the guy's name
But
later.
I think with Democrats, and you do have now Elijah Cummings and John Conyers actually calling for the Inspector General of the Department of Justice to look into this and to look into what Comey did. Because even when you talk to the former ethics lawyer for the Bush White House, the George W. Bush White House, you know what he's saying. So it's not just Democrats are saying that Comey's job is to resist that kind of pressure, that you're afraid of leaks. Okay, that's fine. But Comey's job is not to intervene in an election.
What would you have said if he had done it?
But Comey
what would you have said if he had a leak there?
Well, as we now know, there's nothing in the email. So they would have gone through, actually done the work, done the investigation, as the president said, and then they could have sent a letter to Congress saying, look, we had this laptop, we found emails on it, but there was nothing in them.
But
because that is what he ended up saying
coming
anyway.
out of the FBI that was picked up by the major press. And
the Republicans would have beat him up. That's what he's getting paid the big bucks for.
Okay.
That's what he's getting paid the big bucks for. He's the head of the FBI.
I think
he's not supposed to be a part of the election. He made himself a part of the election.
2 points. One is the question of whether he should have sent the letter itself, which I think is basically what you're talking about. But the second point is what the letter said. And even if you defend the decision to send it to Congress, if the letter had been perhaps a little less Delphic, a little more clear to say, look, we've got these emails, we don't know if there's anything in them, we'll look, we'll let you know. But by saying that they may be pertinent to the investigation, a lot of people jumped on that and said, oh, well, there must be something there or they wouldn't have done this. I can tell you that the fact that the people responded that way sort of threw the FBI for a loop. They thought they sent a letter that was terribly clear, and it may not have been as clear.
He did the same thing on a grander scale in the original conference where he said, we're not going to indict Hillary Clinton, but she was exceedingly careless.
You know, the problem is he didn't put a constraint on the speculation. He should have said, I know it sounds easy now, but he could have said something in addition that would have said, but don't reason to believe that she's guilty. There's no reason to believe there's any reason to believe that she's guilty. But he didn't want to do that.
But all he had to do was behave the way that he himself and the FBI have behaved with regard to the Trump side. I think part of the problem here is the big difference between the way the FBI is treating what a lot of people believe are investigations into the Russian influences and the way they treat it.
None of this is going to matter.
None of the explanation for that. The FBI had no choice on the email investigation. It was a referral from the intelligence.
You know, I made a judgment about Comey a long time ago, positively, in this fight with Ashbrook and I. So I've sort of thought, my sense is he's a good public official.
I think he is.
I think he's a good public
I just think
official.
he's been, in a way, he's been too careful and too political to trying to be non-political.
Could be it. We do that here sometimes.
Yes, sometimes we do.
Anyway, we try to be perfect and we fail. Anyway, Pete Williams, the best. Howard Feynman, the best. In a much wider range of activity. Joy, I know where you're coming from, Joy. Joy's got passion. And she's